you do is you take your hardware off. And the pieces that I want to paint actually were adhered by these hinges. I didn't feel like you guys needed to see that, but collect all your screws, keep them handy. I have a little ramekin for them. And I've set aside the frame of the piece, and now I just have the 3 shelves that I'm going to paint. I also put down, you can put tarp, I put just some paper down. This is not going to be a big project, this is going to be a quick little project. I'm going to be using Americana Decor chalk paint. And the great thing about chalk paint, if you've watched any of my chalk paint videos, nothing needs to be primed, nothing needs to be sanded. Chalk paint self-levels and adheres. So that's what's great about chalk paint. I'm going to be using a white to match the other pieces in the bedroom, and it's really easy to put on. You just need a chip brush. Any kind of like $1, $2 cheapo brush will work just fine. So let's get painting. Now with a damp washcloth, just make sure, just wipe down your piece and let it dry, just to get some of the dirt and the dust off, which I've already done. This is my cheapo chip brush, and you just grab your chalk paint and you're on the work surface, so you're not gonna get anything dirty. And I've shaken my chalk paint so it's nice and well blended. And you're going to lay it down against the grain. And I'm going to work on the tops first and let them dry, and basically handle all the sides the few times and then flip them over and do the backs. But you're going to go against the grain. And then width. And don't worry if it looks like not very good. You're going to have a couple of layers. So keep going. We have all sides painted, and you're going to let them sit till they're dry to the touch, and then we're going to do our edging. But you want to be able to handle them while you do your edges. Then we'll go to a second coat. Go against, and then with. And as you work on the sides and the tops, you're kind of cleaning up edges as you go. You know, like there was some overage over here, so I just kind of blended that. And that's why working back on the tops after you've done the sides, you can clean up some of your messy edges so you don't have any clumpiness. So on to your second coat on your top. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to go against the grain. And then width. And you can already see the white is starting to cover better on your second coat. Don't ever panic on that first coat. So you can see the second coat compared to a first coat. So let it set, and then we'll do the edges again, and we'll clean up as we go. So we've coated the sides on that second coat, and we have 2 coats on the tops. I'm going to hit the tops one more time with a third coat, and then we're going to let them sit for an hour before I flip them over, and then we're going to do 2 coats on the bottom. Then we're going to distress them a little bit, and I'll show you what that's about. Okay, so like I said, we're going to hit the backs really fast against the grain and then with. All right, we've finished off the backs with just 1 coat, and that's all I'm going to need really for these, because they're the bottom, and you know, you're not really going to see them unless you fold this down, which I'm not going to. So, you know, it's just a nice way to kind of finish the piece off, but you know, not waste your chalk paint really. All right, so I've moved my shelves outside to a work area because I'm going to sand off some of this chalk paint to get a little bit of a distressed look. It's good to have a couple of different grits of sandpaper, fine and rough, Rough is going to get the paint off quicker, and fine is going to kind of smooth it out and blend it in. And I like to, when you distress, think about like natural aging of your piece, you know, around knobs, around edges, to make things look natural. And basically you're just kind of roughing up and letting some of the wood show through. That was our tough, rough, large grit. And I went very gently because it can get pretty aggressive. And now I've got a finer one. Oops, sorry. Sorry for the jiggling. Where I'm smoothing it out a little. And blending it. See? So I'm going to do that a little bit, not too much, to a lot of the shelves. And the cool thing about doing this, now see, some of the edges got messy. You can use this technique to kind of also smooth out some of your messy areas and use it to your advantage to kind of rough stuff out too. So I'm going to do that to all the shelves. So I've sanded all 3 pieces, and you can see there is a lot of sand. And some people like to wax before sanding to prevent all the sanded off paint. I think that's just a silly extra step. You just need a wet rag and just wipe everything down lightly. Like so. And what's great is you can actually see your distressing, and if there's any places you want to distress more or blend more, because you're getting that fine sand off, so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to do that to each of these. Let them dry, and you know, I'm outside in a hot day, so this is going to not take long to dry. One final note about waxing, it's good to have the surfaces that you're about to wax sit overnight and cure. Sometimes when I've rushed the process, the paint actually comes up with the wax. I've had problems with certain brands that do that. So the sides that I'm waxing, which are the top and the sides, and I suppose I could do the bottoms just for extra measure, but the most important sides, they've sat overnight to cure up a little bit. Alrighty, everything's dry. So now I've got, you know, the final step in chalk painting is sealing. And the way you seal chalk paint is with furniture wax. There's lots of waxes, and some are more opaque. This one's clear because I just want to seal it. I don't want to add more distressing or any more decor. There's a whole lot more you can do with waxes. You can check out some of my other videos, like my rehabbing a vintage mirror using brown wax to bring out some of the ornateness and show some distressing. Could also do the same with white wax, but this is clear. And you also are going to need a waxing brush. Now, the painting part, if you go to some videos and some bloggers, they'll tell you you also need a chalk painting brush as well. As I showed you, you could just use a normal chip brush and invest in a good waxing brush. The waxing brush is thick and round and it has a flat top. And it's going to help you put the wax down properly. And this I bought on Amazon, and it was for a pretty decent price comparatively to other craft stores. So, you also are going to need for waxing an old, you can do a paper plate. This is kind of my waxing plate. It's an old, I don't know, I think I got it at the dollar store. It's like a plastic plate. And you don't need a lot of wax. Find an area and just drip a little bit in. Go a little at a time. And what you're going to do is with the flat of your brush, tap it. And move it around and tap it. You just want an even, thin film on your waxing brush. So move it up, move it around, and tap. Okay? Set it aside. Get your first piece, get your first shelf. And this is how you wax. You do a circular motion in one corner, like so. And then go with the grain. Do you see that? The circular motion gets the wax into all the grooves and the fiber of the paint, and then going with the grain allows for a smooth finish. That's it. So continue on with your top and your sides, and then let it dry for about an hour. And at that point we can assemble carefully, and I'll explain why. So something I noticed with wax and heat. Wax is wax, and so in heat, and it's really hot outside, my shelves weren't setting. So I brought them inside, and seriously, within like 10 minutes, they finally set after sitting outside for an hour. It's 90 degrees out, so it's something to keep in mind and something that I learned today. So if it's really, really hot out, maybe bring your piece in to do the waxing after you've sanded off and done your distressing. So now you still need to kind of buff the piece, but I think instead of buffing now, I'm going to put the piece together and then buff it when it's together. So I'm going to put it all back in its frame with the hardware. The last thing you need to do is buff, and you just need a rag or some cheesecloth. And I decided to buff once we assembled everything so that it felt sturdy. So buff it out in circular motions, and then it should be good to go, but not cured. Wax takes about 7 days to fully cure, so be really careful. Don't put heavy objects on it. Don't jump on things. There it is, all done, and now matches the bed. Hooray for chalk paint! Thanks for joining me today on Fridays with Flora, and join me next Friday for our next project. And please subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye.